All right, all right, all right. Welcome into Toilets to Titles, episode number 65. Today, we are doing some Devy discussion with the Gridiron Scholar himself, Mr. John Laub. I'm going to be bringing him in shortly. Before I do that, let me go through a few things. I want to let everybody know where you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Coach Sheps, at Coach SCHEPPS. And the show is on Twitter at Toilets2Titles. How you can listen to the show other than the way you're listening to it now. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Podbean. We have two Facebook groups. One's a Toilets to Titles Facebook group. One's a Facebook group called When a Family Breaks that we have sports cards, memorabilia, buy, sell, trade. If you look behind me, I got a lot of that stuff over there. So I turned it into a Facebook group. We do some dealings on there. We are also on Spotify. Again, regardless of how you are listening now, if you could go to our YouTube channel, we're up to 228 subscribers, and that's because Justin's been doing some work on there. So go to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, go through a few of our episodes, hit the like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. That helps the algorithm. It helps us, I guess, move up the chains there. So maybe at some point, maybe we'll make some money doing this thing. Who knows? But again, talking about what I said about Justin doing some things on the YouTube, where he's doing a little giveaway now. It's pretty crazy. You got to go to YouTube to check it out. We're trying to fill our Frankenstein League, which is our listener league. We have 3 divisions right now. I think it's 12 teams. Last year it was one 14-team division. It's kind of like a vampire-style league where you could take players from teams after you beat them. Scoring's great. Like, it's a monster. That's why we call it Frankenstein. It is a monster. We kind of just last year went to town making up these rules, and now we added a bunch of team members this season. So now we're all putting our heads together, working on these rules and evolving the league. But we're doing a giveaway because we just hit, like, I think we're close to 1,100 followers on Twitter. So Justin did this thing where he took every single Twitter handle and put them in rows, and then rolled dice to see how many people from each row are going to make it to the next round, kind of doing some sort of contest for every single one of our followers. And eventually he's going to narrow it down to one, and that one's going to be able to get into Frankenstein. So you got to go check that out. It's pretty interesting. I do want to let everybody know we do have a Patreon account now. It's patreon.com/toilets-titles. $3 per month gets you into our group chat right now. I believe it's on WhatsApp. That might change at some point if we get any bigger, but right there, you're going to be interacting with all the guys from Toilets to Titles. Tier 2 is $5 per month. Gets you early access to our waiver wire episodes in season. It gets you entry into our Frankenstein League, which I was just discussing, and also gets you into the group chat. And then Tier 3, $10 per month. You get one-on-one roster analysis at any point with any guy from Toilets to Titles. Gets free entry. So before you got entry into Frankenstein, which is $25, this is free entry. So it's $25 value. Also gets you into the group chat and get you early access to the waiver wire episodes. So it's pretty much it for the formalities. So let me bring on our guest, the Gridiron Scholar himself, Mr. John Laub. What is cooking?
Hey, Coach, man. It's a rainy Saturday morning, but I'm excited to talk. School is over, so it's summertime in the Northeast, so I'm fired up. It's great to see you. Even though you have a Texas Longhorn cap on, it's good to see you anyways. Hook 'em horns.
Yeah.
But it's great, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. So first off, we were speaking about 90s before the episode, and you're talking about rain. And I'm just going to drop a 90s quote to see if you know what movie this is from. Can't rain all the time.
That's Prince?
That's from The Crow. That's from The Crow. Brandon Lee. Yeah. So, but man, I'm doing good. The reason I'm wearing this Texas
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. If you haven't seen it, if you're listening to the show or watching the show, go check it out.
Wait here, Coach. Since you started, I used to work in the comic book industry for a magazine. I read the Crow comic book before the film came out. That's how old I am. It's a great book. I believe it's a graphic novel or a comic. I don't have it anymore. But yes, and I love that film.
Man, it's the 90s in a nutshell. Like, is it not? Man, there's like, it's cool, but there's also some weird stuff in it. Like some weird stuff that makes you uncomfortable, like for sure. Yeah. We could spend a whole episode discussing that. But yeah, go check that movie out. You'd be definitely interested in it. But the reason I wear the Texas hat, Ricky Williams is one of my favorite college football players of all time. So my two favorite, Ricky and Tyrann Mathieu. So I go back and forth between Texas and LSU. With me for college, with the NFL, like I live and die on Sundays with Dallas.
Yeah.
So on Saturdays, I try to make it less. Like I was a diehard Gators fan growing up, and now I kind of try to just follow players. So it's a little lighter on Saturdays. It's not as, live and die. I can breathe on Saturday,
Yeah. Now you know what? Ricky Williams, man, I loved him in college. But this is crazy. So I remember everyone knew Ricky Williams was going to be good because he was one of those like 5-star recruits. He played, we're never going to see this again, in my opinion, at a major Power 5 school. 4 years he played. He had 361 carries his senior year, won the Heisman, 75 career touchdowns. Oh my, I mean, he was so good. No one would stay after he had an 1,800-yard season. They're leaving now. And a coach is at a Power 5 with a first-round draft pick. Unlikely, possible, but unlikely to get 360 carries after 279 carries. I mean, he was such a good college player. And you know what? He had a very underrated NFL career. People don't give Ricky credit for. He had a good NFL career.
It was almost like his first 2 years in New Orleans. He was kind of recovering from that workload in Texas because he really broke out. You know what? Like, I'm going to compare him to Le'Veon Bell. I think he was a little bit different physically in college than he was in the pros. Both of them were a little more heavy, I think, a little thicker. They both trimmed up. Le'Veon did it before his rookie year, I believe. Ricky Williams got a little leaner after his second season in the NFL, got a little more explosive, and that completely changed his game. Once he trimmed up a little bit and got a little more explosive, it was lights out. Like he was phenomenal. It was him and Ladainian Tomlinson.
Coach, you look at the 2 years at Miami. He was unbelievable.
Incredible.
When he was with the Dolphins, and he looked thinner.
Yeah.
He looked more sleek. Yes, by far. One very underrated. The problem is people wanted him to be a Hall of Famer from day one, and he was just a darn good NFL player. And you know what? Those Mike Ditka teams weren't very good. He landed on, my friend. I mean, those were bad football teams. So that's part of the problem when he first got there.
Yeah, man. But those were like running backs around that time were very great. Ladainian Tomlinson, I mentioned him as well. Texas Christian. They had some good guys coming out of there.
TCU. And that was weird. That was before TCU. I think they were in the Mountain West back then. They weren't in the Big 12. And very rarely on TV. So I remember watching and reading about Ladainian Tomlinson, and you might have only seen 2 games of Tomlinson on national television back in the day. Now TCU's on all the time. But yeah, I remember trying to get glimpses of LT at TCU was hard. You couldn't see him like nowadays. If LT was at TCU, he'd be on every weekend.
Oh yeah. We were talking earlier as well before the show about me being close to West Point.
Yeah.
My senior year of high school, we practiced on Army's field before a state playoff game. TCU played Army my senior year at Army. So I didn't watch them, but I got to be on a field that a few weeks prior Ladainian Tomlinson was on, because he really, it was his buzz didn't build until his senior year, I don't know if it was his senior year, his last year at college. That was when he, people really knew about him, but man, he was damn good. Damn good. We could go down a rabbit hole of running back, talk about Jamal Charles, running backs a few years ago that just had monster seasons, but that's not what we're doing right now. I know this is college talk, but it's not college talk of Devy's past. It's of Devy's future, John. All right. So let's get into that discussion. So John, everybody, just so you know, if you're not familiar with him, he's been on the show quite a few times. His Twitter handle, if you're watching on YouTube, it's down there. It's at Gridiron Scholar 91. He's a college fantasy football and NFL fantasy football analyst. He's for fantasy football diehards. He's a co-host of College Fantasy Football on Campus and the Draft Seminar. John, before we get into Devy discussion, you did something really cool on your show the last few weeks with Devy Bingo.
Oh.
And I watched that, man. I'm in my office. Usually I listen to my podcasts when I'm in my office, so I had it up. And I thought it was really cool how you did it. So why don't you discuss the Devy Bingo a little bit, and then we'll get into some Devy discussion.
Oh, great thanks for watching it. And I really had a good time doing the show. And what came up is, there's a lot of podcasts and a lot of people just doing rankings, right? And talking about Devy players. And I said, I listened to a bunch. How can I make it a little bit different? Now, I grew up in the 70s where we had 3 channels in Connecticut. And in the summertime, one of the only things my brothers and I could do on a rainy day is watch game shows. Like, we would just watch, 3 or 4 game shows a day in the morning.
Which ones?
Rabbit ears. What?
Which ones?
Oh, what do we always? Price is Right.
Yeah.
The $25,000
Supermarket Suite. Supermarket Suite.
Yeah. No, that was after me. There was a thing, $25,000 Pyramid. Wheel of Fortune used to have a daytime show. There was the Gong Show, but that wasn't really a game show per se. Mm-hmm. So I said, and then when I was in high school or in middle school, our teachers played a lot of like shows, Jeopardy and $25,000 Pyramid. So I said, why don't we do something different and put Matt and I at a disadvantage? Because if you watch the show, you had to pick a running back from the Power 5 or the Group of 5. So you might get a running back from Coastal Carolina. Well, that's hard to come up with if you don't know all 130 teams. So we wanted to do it in a fun manner. Also, I didn't just want to keep listing the same players. If you're into Devy, you probably know in general the top 40 prospects right now. So I said, why don't we dig deeper? Because to win a Devy, you've got to find a player now that is going to get NFL draft capital in 1 or 2 years that is not on your typical Devy roster. So, and where do you find the biggest risers would be, to me, at the Group of 5 level. Look at Dwayne Eskridge.
Yeah.
Dwayne Eskridge was a 3rd-round pick. I bet you, Coach, most Devy players could not name Dwayne Eskridge last year at this time.
I was a little early on the Central Michigan draft capital train. I was really high on Levante Bellamy.
There you go.
I thought he was going to be the guy that Dwayne Eskridge ended up being. Like, I loved Bellamy, man. That kid is super explosive, super twitchy, and it was Eskridge, though. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was Eskridge. I didn't know Eskridge. I was on Bellamy. So
I wanted to help viewers with gaining it. I'll tell you a name who I think is this year's Dwayne Eskridge, because the goal here is to help people dig deep. If you have not watched Justin Hall at Ball State, you're doing yourselves a disservice, everyone. Throw on the tape. He's almost Dwayne Eskridge. I mean, almost the exact same player.
Really?
Coach, 257 receptions in 4 years. He's coming back for a 5th. He's got 85 career carries, and he's a kick and punt returner from freshman year. Early dynamic breakout player who got on the field immediately. He could, if he has another 1,000-yard season, gets about 1,400 yards from scrimmage, Justin Hall could be that guy who gets 3rd-round draft capital. And I bet you if you look in your Devy rosters right now, no one probably has Justin Hall. And if you're looking for a guy who's going to rise, Justin Hall is your man. But that's what I wanted to do. And same thing. Well, we'll talk about others because we're going to go through. But there are lots of players. So we broke it up from Power 5 to Group of 5. And we wanted to dig deeper and put Matt and I, because you had to be ready if you got Conference USA, name a tight end, right? We wanted to be ready with all players because remember, there's 130 teams at the college level. And we did it. We could have gone to the FCS level like Carson Wentz, Trey Lance, but so there are so many players out there that you need to know. So we wanted to go deeper and present the information in a different manner.
All right, well, let's get into those players because there are a lot of players out there. I don't think we've done Devy discussion on this show this season. And me and you, we've been talking about this episode, I want to say, for like 2 months. Let's get it done. It's perfect timing, man. It's July. College football starts at the end of next month. It's excellent timing. Couldn't go any better. So let's get into this right now. So first thing here is none of the Devy leagues that I'm in allow high school players to be drafted. I know there are some players or some leagues that allow that. What is the difference in those leagues? That do that and that don't? Like, is there a technical term that splits up a Devy league that doesn't allow high school players and a Devy that does? Let me know.
I don't think there is a technical term. I think it depends on the owners and how they devise the league. Now, Coach, everyone who knows me or follows me, I'm a high school teacher. I do not play in a Devy league with high school players available. I just think that is going too far.
Yeah.
Once they arrive on a campus, I'm fine. Like freshmen this year coming to Ohio State, totally fine with that. We all know there's another Manning quarterback.
Yeah.
The world knows it. I don't think it's right, just my opinion, to be drafting high school players who haven't even they're kids. They're kids. I won't play in one with high school prospects. I just think I want to wait till they finish their senior year of high school. I see the rankings on Rivals, 24/7 Sports, and then they enroll in college. By that age, they're 18, maybe 19, depending on when they started, elementary school. I've just decided that's not something that I want to do. Do I read about the young man Manning? Yes. Have I seen the clips? Yes. Do I feel comfortable watching highlights of a high school player who's a sophomore or junior? I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think it's a complete, and I got nothing wrong with it. It's just not how I want to play. I just think it's best. Let's wait till the young men, at least they're men at 18 and they can vote. Let's wait till they get on a college campus with the college team. That's just my opinion. I don't want to go too deep. Are we going to go middle school someday? That's the college coaches. I get why they do those things. I just want to keep it at a level that is fair to the young adult. So but I've never heard a name that differentiates between the two. I just think it's how the league is set up, my friend. Okay. All my league setups, you have to be enrolled or committed and finish your senior year of high school football.
All right. Respect. I like that. All right, cool. All right. So there is no term. It just depends on the commissioner and what he set up when he built the league. I like that. All right. Now we're going to get into the juice. Let's take a big bite out of the apple right now. The world revolves around quarterbacks. You know that. I know that. You discussed. We all know there's another Manning coming up.
We all know it.
Hopefully he's more Manning than Martell. Because there's a lot of buzz about Martell when he was coming up at high school too. So hopefully he's more Manning than that. But anyway, give us a breakdown of the current Devy quarterback landscape. This next year's draft class and beyond. What do we got to look at? Who should we be watching, and who should we be putting on our lists?
Right now, there's clearly top two, and I think they are at their own tier. That is Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler. We all know what Lincoln Riley has done at that Oklahoma program. When you consider that they've had Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, and who am I missing? Who's the other Oklahoma quarterback? Baker Mayfield.
Mr. Mayfield.
Look at how he coaches them up, the production, their ability to step onto an NFL field in year one is spectacular. You could argue, my friend, Spencer Rattler is the highest graded prospect that Lincoln Riley has brought to Oklahoma. What's amazing, Mayfield, Murray, and Hurts were all transfers who Lincoln Riley brought to Oklahoma. Rattler is his chosen young man. He got Rattler out of high school. That tells me a lot about what Lincoln Riley thought of this young man as a prospect. Because if Lincoln Riley wanted to dip into the transfer portal, you don't think a kid's going to Oklahoma? So he decided that I like this young man as a recruit so much, I'm going to bring him into Oklahoma right away. That tells me a ton. 6'1", 191. That's what he's listed at Oklahoma. And everyone, if you follow high school heights and weights and you look at these Oklahoma and you look at the college pages, there's always some wiggle room. We all saw what happened to Rashad Bateman. He got shorter and lighter when he went to get weighed, right?
Uh-huh.
So I think obviously, can his body frame get up to 200? And is he actually 6'1"? But we know you can play at 6 feet, 5'11". We know we're over that. But you always want to know the final numbers.
Yeah.
So Rattler. Now, I have Howell number 1.
Tell me about him. Tell me about Howell. Sell me on him. North Carolina quarterback scares me a little bit. Sell me on Sam Howell.
I think Howell has a gun for an arm. He's not necessarily the dynamic athlete that Spencer Rattler is. I think Howell is a modern amalgamation of the dual threat quarterback and the pocket passer. He's not going to be Josh Allen with his legs, all right? But he's good enough where he's at the NFL level proficiency. He can get you a first down. Now, you're not going to do the Ravens and the Bills where they design running plays on a consistent basis for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. They're uber athletes with their running ability. Sam Howell is more in that Carson Wentz, Baker Mayfield kind of area. But I think he's so good from the pocket throwing the football. He came into Mac Brown's system in the year of Longhorn. You know Mac Brown. I've been so impressed. I'm actually surprised at how quickly Mac Brown has turned around this Tar Heels program. And not only he landed Sam Howell as a 4-star recruit, which was Howell wasn't a guarantee to go to North Carolina. He got him to come to North Carolina. Mac Brown is as dynamic wide receivers he's recruited. They have a great kid we could talk about later at wide receiver. He had 2 NFL level wide receivers come to were with the Tar Heels last year who got drafted. Look at the running backs he's coached up.
Yeah. Sam
Howell is really the engine of that offense. Now, the offensive line is great, so that's a different story too. He's benefited from that. I'll tell you what I'm very interested. I'm sorry, my camera's not working.
We're good. We hear you fine. You're good.
Sam Howell, I'm very interested in this year because I believe in adversity and a quarterback going through it at the college level.
I like that.
I like to see that. What I like about Howell this year, he's got a whole new team. Daz Newsome's gone.
Yep.
Michael Carter's gone. Javonte Williams is gone. Who's the Redskin? The Washington.
De'Ami Brown.
The My Brown is gone.
Yeah.
He's got to put this offense on his shoulders, my friend. And I love that. I am so fascinated in watching Sam Howell develop and how he takes on the challenge of an entire new offense. And that, to me, is very important as a prospect. He's no longer the young kid who benefits from an incredible talent around him. He's now the upperclassman who must be the leader. on and off the field. The arm strength is tremendous, my friend. Pocket presence is terrific. He has enough mobility. He's actually scored more rushing touchdowns than one would think. I think he had 5 last year. He's probably in the Zach Wilson boat for rushing.
Okay.
Now, Zach Wilson, I think he had 10 rushing touchdowns last year, which is not going to happen at the NFL level. But Sam Howell can get you 200 yards in the NFL rushing with 4 to 5 touchdowns. That's how I project him. So I have Howell number 1. I need Spencer Rattler right now made young mistakes. He made some mistakes freshman year. And I give him, I get it. Freshman, redshirt freshman, you're going to make mistakes. I thought he made some poor reads. I thought the system is obviously beneficial for Oklahoma. So both of these young men, I have Howell 1, Rattler 2. I got to see both of them develop this year. It's very important. I need Spencer Rattler, in my opinion, to be a better pocket quarterback. That does not mean he's Eli Manning. That's not what I'm asking for. A pocket presence to me means avoiding the pass rush, keeping your eyes downfield, throwing the ball on the run, finding the open man when you scramble. This is a different, when I now define pocket presence, this is not the 1990s pocket presence. Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger the last 15, 20 years, just standing there and getting hit. I mean avoiding the pass rush, eyes downfield, and still throwing darts to open receivers. I need to see that with Rattler. The question now, Coach, is who's number 3? We have a big opportunity for, I think, 3 quarterbacks to make arguments for the number 3 spot in this next class. Let's not forget, if we rewinded the tape to the summer of 2019 and the summer of 2020, no one was identifying Zach Wilson last year as a first-round pick. He wasn't even in the college fantasy football top 40 quarterbacks. I have right now like 75 quarterbacks on my college fantasy football rankings. So it just tells you how far down Zach Wilson was as a prospect. And then 2 years before that, oh my God, who was the 2019 quarterback that no one had? I have to think. Let me go quickly to all of a sudden my old man brain. 2019 NFL. What?
I'm trying to think as well.
NFL draft. Give me half a second here. I should know that, but sometimes not Daniel Jones, not Josh Allen. Let me see. Who's the first round pick in 2000?
Was it Kyler? No, everyone knew.
What? I guess it was Kyler. He wasn't considered the number 1 overall pick in 2019, but people knew who he was.
Right.
Joe Burrow. I'm sorry. I went
there
2020.
we go. Yep.
No one had Joe Burrow in the top 40.
Right.
No one had him as a top 10 NFL prospect. So there is likely to be another quarterback like Burrow or Zach Wilson to rise. So who do I think are the main 3? Matt Corral, Mississippi. He's my number 3 rated. He has everything you're looking for in the modern quarterback, my friend. He's got chutzpah. He's got confidence. He's got a cannon. I know you watched him because you were watching Elijah Moore. I was watching Elijah Moore, and I'm sorry, folks, if you were actually watching Elijah Moore, you can't help but notice some of the darts that Matt Corral was throwing to him, folks. Matt Corral's I'm stunned that more people are not into Matt Corral, and I'll tell you this, Matt Corral to me is a better runner than Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler. He's better with his legs. Now, Did he make some mistakes? Yes, everyone talks about the touchdown interception ratio. I thought he played better than Spencer Rattler last year. And one game, he had 6 interceptions. It was just one of those days. Ladies and gentlemen, do you remember when you were 20 years of age, when you did something stupid? Matt Corral had one of those days. It happens at 20 years old, people.
Yeah.
He just, when you throw 6 stinkers, dude, but I'll tell you what I like about it. He never quit on his team. And what I like about it even more, my friend, Lane Kiffin did not bench the young man. You know what he said? I'm going to let the young man stay out there, learn how to deal with adversity, and get your head on for the next game. Stop baby. I'm sorry. I grew up when pitchers used to go 300 innings. Now you get 2 runners on in the 5th and they take you out. In the old days, you had to fight to get that 3rd out. I love that. Lane Kiffin kept Matt Corral in the game. And that young man kept fighting. I don't look at the 6 interception as bad. I look at it as a terrific learning experience. He never threw 6 interceptions again. I don't think he'll ever throw 6 interceptions again in his lifetime. You know why? Lane Kiffin, if he's a good coach, and I believe he is, but I've never talked to him or met him, he took that young man Sunday morning after breakfast and he talked to him. And he knows him better than I do. He probably took him into his room in college and said, let's watch some film and let's see what you did right and what you did wrong. That's how you treat a young man in that. You don't berate him. You don't yell at him. You say, young man, Matt, let's learn from what we did. And I know Lane Kiffin's a good coach. He took his quarterback, and that was a learning experience. He didn't berate him. He didn't bench him. Let's learn from it. I love that. I don't look, people sit there, look at that 6 interception game. Oh my God, he can't play in the NFL. Look at that. Stop, folks. Stop. He's a 20-year-old kid, maybe 21. He made a mistake. He didn't get benched. He came back the next game, my friends. Look at the numbers. He's a good quarterback. I'm a big Matt Corral. I don't look at that. Now, coach, do I want to see an improvement in touchdown? Of course I do. Of course I do. But that's called growth. That's called growth. He has all of the traits that I'm looking for in an NFL quarterback.
Is he this year's Joe? Is that the guy? Is he Zach Wilson? Is he Joe Burrow? Or
well, he's more known in the Devy and the NFL scouting community than Burrow and Wilson were.
It seems like Malik Willis is the flavor of the month. Like I started hearing about him like 4 or 5 weeks ago, and now everybody's drafting him. Tell me about him.
All right, so I have Malik Willis number 5.
Okay.
And I like Malik. So I'm amazed. Everyone now believes that Malik Willis is going to be Joe Burrow and he's going to be Zach
Trey Lance. Uh-huh.
I don't think he's as good of a thrower of the football as Trey Lance. Ladies and gentlemen, I watched Liberty. I picked up Malik Willis on 2 college fantasy football teams. Remember that Liberty was able to have their schedule like BYU. So Liberty was on like BYU with Zach Wilson. Malik Willis is still a runner first, athlete first, who can throw the football. In the NFL, what makes guys like Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson so good? And we can argue how good of a thrower Lamar is. That's a different debate. They're passers who run. Malik needs to make that transformation. He's an incredible talent with some tremendous traits. But I need to see him develop still in the pocket. And what I mean by that, if you've watched Jalen Hurts and why I have him on 3 dynasty teams right now, because I drafted him in the 3rd round. I mean, I couldn't pass up the value. Jalen Hurts looked to throw the football before he ran. But if it wasn't there, he ran because he's a dynamic athlete. What I see with the young man Malik Willis Coach, as soon as the offensive line breaks down or he doesn't see his receivers open, guess what Malik does?
Takes off.
Takes off. Because he's so much more talented. Remember, he plays at Liberty. There isn't a linebacker or a safety who can run with Malik Willis. He went to Auburn. Now, that's a different story. How Gus Malzahn took Bo Nix over Malik Willis that might be why Gus Malzahn ain't at Auburn anymore. But that's a different story. I like Malik. I think people are putting the cart ahead of the horse right now. Hey, he's my 5th ranked quarterback in Devy for next year's class.
Who's your 4?
Carson Strong of Nevada.
Okay, Nevada, right?
Dude, the only challenge with Carson Strong, he's a 1990s quarterback in the modern game.
This is a 1990s themed episode, I think. I think that it's...
Dude, he has negative 97 career rushing yards. He is not dynamic with the legs. Now, does he command the pocket? Yes. Can he avoid the pass rush? More than adequate. Does he have an arm? Woo! I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you want to see some throws. Put on Carson Strong, dude. He can throw that 25-yard out to the opposite hash mark as well as anyone. But in the modern game, we do like these new dynamic quarterbacks, right? I don't think Carson Strong can get you 250 yards rushing. Now, there's nothing wrong with Kirk Cousins. Great NFL quarterback, good fantasy quarterback. But can Cousins ever become the top 5 fantasy? No, he can't. He's not going to get you 400 yards rushing.
Right.
He'll throw for
Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, that same mold there.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there will be a team who wants that, right? An old school coach who wants that type of quarterback. So I have Carson Strong at number 4. Either one of those 3 players could be number 3 by next year. My rankings, though, have Matt Corral, Mississippi, Carson Strong, Nevada, Malik Willis, Liberty. The wild card is Kedon Slovis, USC, who's fallen in this offseason. A long shot, there's 2 of them. Jaden Daniels, Arizona State. Does he come out? That's a question. He's allegedly over 200 pounds now. He was listed at 185, but reports are that he's been working in the weight room, gaining weight. Arizona State. The other one, JT Daniels at Georgia. JT Daniels originally enrolled at USC. He was supposed to get the starting job. He got hurt, and Kedon Slovis took the job and won it from him. Same high school recruiting class. Then JT Daniels transferred to Georgia. He's got all the tools, 6'3", 210. He's playing in the SEC. The problem is I'm not a big Georgia fan for offense. They're kind of a grinded out, kind of undynamic offense. But I think JT Daniels at Georgia could make that rise up draft boards. That is going to be very interesting. One last guy, Phil Jerkovic. Originally went to Notre Dame. Lost the job to Ian Book. Phil Jerkovic is a better NFL prospect than Ian Book. But Ian Book was winning games. See, there's one thing I'm trying to educate followers when they make decisions. Coaches are going to go with the kid when they're winning games. Why did USC keep Slovis? They were winning football games. A coach's job is to win games, not develop, not worry about the highest rated recruit. He took Kedon Slovis because he won games with Kedon Slovis. That's why the coach kept him. Why did Notre Dame keep Ian Book over Phil Jerkovic? Ian Book was winning football games for Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly wants to win football games at Notre Dame. So Jerkovich couldn't get on the field. He moves to Boston College. 6'5", 226.
Man, that's a big boy.
My man, but what makes him interesting? 2,700 yards passing last year, 289 yards rushing. Phil Jerkovich is more of that dynamic dual athlete at the quarterback position. Now, this is a very important year for Jerkovich. But my friend, if you want to find value at the quarterback position in a Devy league, you're not going to get value in Sam Howell. You're not going to get value in Spencer Rattler. They're first-round picks. Phil Jerkovich could be a first-round pick with a dynamic year from BC. That's the type of guy that I'm looking for, who you can grab late and really gain a lot of NFL value. So either Jaden Daniels, Arizona State, JT Daniels, Georgia, or Phil Jerkovich from Boston College could all end up first-round picks if everything goes right this year.
Okay. All right. That's a lot of talk on quarterbacks. Let's move on. I want to get some running back and wide receiver discussion in before we wrap this thing up. We still got some time, so let's get into some running backs. All right. This year's running back class, in my opinion, was a little underwhelming. How do the next two classes look? Right, for those dynasty Devy rosters in need of running back help, is next year the big class? Is the year after the big class? You know, who are the guys to target? And which year's class you think is going to be the better one?
There are two studs in the running backs right now. Breece Hall, my friends. Breece Hall, Iowa State, and Isaiah Spiller, Texas A&M. The size of these two young men with the speed. 6'1", 215 for Breece Hall, 6'1", 225 for Isaiah Spiller. Monsters. I mean, when you play in the SEC like Spiller and you're 225, my friend, NFL teams are going to love him. When you're an NFL coach and you look at a kid who played in the SEC at 225, and he played for Jimbo Fisher, he has 49 receptions in 2 seasons, my friend. Isaiah Spiller is a good pass catcher. He should end up with 80 career receptions. That's a boatload for a running back prospect. Breece Hall, 46 receptions. The difference is Breece Hall does play in the Big 12 at Iowa State. You don't have the level of defensive competition. I have first-round grades on both. They're both special players. Love them. Now, the player who I think, so let's say this. He would have been, all these guys would have been first-round picks decades ago. But now we're looking at second round. I do think Spiller or Hall will end up in the first round. Which one? We'll see. We have a year to decide. I'm a big Eric Gray fan at Oklahoma. I don't understand at Tennessee how you could have watched him and not think he's spectacular. And ladies and gentlemen, Tennessee's program has fallen off the charts. What that young man was doing at Tennessee, dude, in a team that was a disaster, they're a bottom feeder. Sorry, Tennessee fans. 43 catches, 5.1 yards per catch, 5'10", 205. Second round grade. And in Oklahoma, oh, dude, I am all in. He is going to see wide open running lanes. He's used to being like mauled, hit behind the line of scrimmage in Tennessee. He's going to be like, yo, where the linebackers be at? Right? And he is so dynamic at the second level. I call it second level vision. once you break through the front line and he has that ability to see the safeties in the corners, out of his periphery, and he breaks them down with his ankles, he's unbelievable at the second level. Love Eric Gray. Zamir White is the wild card. Zamir White is going to be a fascinating draft pick. Another Georgia product. And we know NFL coaches, look, they're conservative. They've seen Georgia put tremendous running backs in the NFL decade after decade. You're looking at a young man, 6'0", 215, 5-star prospect at Georgia. Has not lived up to expectations yet. But my friends, he might have 1,400 yards rushing this year. It's a possibility. If he has 1,400 yards rushing, coach, he's going to be a first or second round pick in the NFL draft.
And that's in 8 games. They play 8-game schedules.
No. I mean 14. No, this year.
Oh, yeah.
If he has that in 12 games, and there's a chance Zamir White could do it, if they feed him enough. And they have another player, Georgia's loaded. Kendall Milton is another excellent prospect. Hopefully they do the Nick Chubb kind of, Todd Gurley. They just give it to the one guy, Zamir White. Mm-hmm. So he's going to go up a ton. And then, so then there's guys we don't know if they're going to come out.
What about the kid from Georgia Tech?
See, so I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is a true sophomore right now. Okay. He's not going to come out. That's why I'm not talking about Bijan Robinson.
Tell me about that class too. Compare that class to this class.
See, so right now that's fascinating, my brother. Because in the next class, 2022, you have again the big two. Bijan Robinson at your school there, Texas, Hook 'em Horns, who I have. Oh my God, is he good? Is he special?
Is he the best back in college football right now?
I have him right now as the best back in college football.
Okay.
Now, we don't know for sure how Sark's going to use them. And college fantasy football-wise, I have them at number 2 or 3. Because there's a difference in college fantasy football than NFL prospect. Bijan Robinson is my number 1, but he's going to come out in 2 years. Then you have Tank Bigsby at Auburn, dude.
Yep.
Another SEC back. So those are the top 2. Then my third guy is Jahmyr Gibbs. Love Jahmyr Gibbs at Georgia Tech, folks. 5'11", 210, 4-star prospect. 24 receptions as a true freshman at Georgia Tech. He's a special player. And underneath those is the number 1 ranked prospect from that class, Zach Evans, TCU. He was the most highly ranked prospect. The fact that TCU got him was a shock to the recruiting world. Now, what I've been drafting Zachary Evans a lot in college fantasy football. Dude, he stumbled to like the 45th running back off the board. Plummeted down draft boards. So in my book, I love Zachary Evans. People giving up on him too fast. 5'11", 195. He did average 7.7 yards a carry last year, dude.
It's big
he
numbers.
Didn't have a great freshman year, but let's give the young man COVID, not a great team. They lost their quarterback in the beginning of the year. I think Zach Evans is being overlooked. He's on the outside. So I actually like, and then if we have Kendall Milton at Georgia and Jalen Berger, who's at Wisconsin, dude, that 2023 class could be super. So right now, I think the 2023 class is deeper right now than oh my God, I got to get my years right. Yeah, the 2023 class is deeper than the 2022.
Now, go back to 2022. What do you think about Ely from Ole Miss? You think he's a college guy only, or you think he can actually translate?
No, I think he can translate. I have him as my number 10 running back, but I think he's a 3rd round pick.
Really? I mean, I think that's good. That's good draft capital for a running back.
Ladies and gentlemen, the SEC matters. People, you can say what you want, and I get it, but NFL scouts and scouting and organizations in the NFL, they're going to rank SEC running backs, my friend, very high. Jerron Ely has 35 career receptions, averages 5.8 yards per carry, 17 touchdowns, and Lane Kiffin made Devin Singletary an NFL draft pick out of Florida International.
He had some good film. Singletary had some good film.
Jerron Ely's better than Devin Singletary, my friend. And if Jerron Ely goes out and gets like 1,700 yards from scrimmage in Lane Kiffin's system at Mississippi in the SEC West, brother, forget about it. The NFL is going to love him. I have a 3rd-round grade on him right now.
Who do you have higher? All right, I know this. I don't know if this is a tough question. Michael Carter, North Carolina. I know he's a pro now. Or Ely at Ole Miss. Which
I
do you like better as a college prospect?
Based on the film that I've seen, I like Ely at Ole Miss more than Michael Carter.
Okay.
I like Ely a lot.
I like it.
He's a good player, my friend.
I like it. Let's stay on Ole Miss a little bit. All right. So Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, they have been sending wide receivers to the NFL at a ridiculous rate. All right. Yeah. Ridiculous. For those 3 schools, is there anybody on deck at the wide receiver position that's ready to come out and go 1st round next year?
So you have one very interesting pick. Well, Braylon Sanders is the guy. Let me see where I have him in my Devy rankings. The skill set and the talent is all there. The question is, can he put it together? But he was injured. So Braylon Sanders at Mississippi and Jonathan Mingo at Mississippi. I love both of those 2 players. One of them, coach, is going to be an incredible rock star this year for Mississippi. Let's see, Braylon Sanders out. Here Mingo, I go.
Jonathan Mingo is a great name.
I want to make sure I get the right size. 6 feet, 190, dude. And he was a 4-star prospect by Scout and ESPN. He's been injured, and he hasn't hit his ceiling yet. If Braylon Sanders pops this year, and he could be the guy, Mississippi's loaded. The other one that I like a lot, Jonathan Mingo. This is what Mississippi's putting out here. Look at this dude. 6 feet, 190 for Braylon Sanders. Jonathan Mingo is slated to play in the slot where A.J. Brown, Elijah Moore played. Check out Jonathan Mingo. 6'2", 215 as a slot receiver.
That's like Des Bryant in the slot there.
Dude, he is going this. I don't understand. I got so much Jonathan Mingo in college fantasy football. Lane Kiffin's system, when he has a tight end or a slot receiver, guess what, dude? He feeds him. Now, do I think Jonathan Mingo on the X is going to be huge? Absolutely. But with Matt Corral throwing the football in a Lane Kiffin offense, there's enough room for Braylon Sanders and Jonathan Mingo both to eat this year. And Jonathan Mingo is going to cost you nothing in a Devy league right now. My friend, you're telling me a slot. He reminds me a little bit of Tyler Boyd.
Okay.
Probably faster and quicker than Boyd, but the same, if he gets 80% of the snaps out of the slot this year, dude, and he gets, let's say he gets 100 targets, woo, and Braylon Sanders is going to eat on the X and the Y there's no question. So those are the 2 that you want there, my friend.
All right. Bama. What about Bama or LSU? I know Butte out of LSU, Mechie out of Bama. Are there any other guys we need to know from those programs?
So right now, Butte is the guy and Mechie. I love them both. Butte I have as my number 1 Devy, but remember, he's class of 2023.
Right.
Mechie, well, what's interesting? Alabama, Nick Saban gets his guys to come back for a fourth year. So it'll be interesting because Mechie's a true junior. He played as a freshman, and then last year when Jaden Waddle got injured, Mechie took over and ended up with over 900 yards as a true sophomore. So can Saban keep Mechie in the program for a fourth year? The problem is if Mechie's smart, he looks at the depth chart and he looks around the locker room and goes, "Oh my God, there's so much talent here. Maybe I should bolt for the NFL right now."
How funny is that? Like, how funny is the thought that you should leave Alabama because it's so damn talented to go to the NFL because you might end up somewhere with less talent?
Dude, right now, Ja'Cory Brooks, 6'2", 190, 5-star recruit, freshman. Ajay Hall, 6'3", 193, 4-star recruit at Alabama. And let me see, then JoJo Earl is another kid at Alabama, a little smaller, 5'9", 170.
Two first names, great.
Yes. I mean, the locker room at Alabama is insanity, brother.
Uh-huh.
So
it has been. It's been like that for the last, 5 years.
Yes. Now, you talk about LSU. I don't right now have another LSU in my Devy rankings of the top 50. But do they have talent? Yes. Am I going to be watching close? I mean, you can go to 24/7 Sports, and if you want, you could just knock off the LSU receivers. But I need to see it. I haven't seen it at that level. Will they probably have a guy who jumps up? They're LSU. Yes, my brother. I don't have one in the top 50 right now.
I want to go back to running back real quick with LSU. What do you think of John Emery? What do you think of Emery from LSU?
I need to see it. He's been a huge disappointment, dude. Wow, he came in with all the hardware, all of the press. He has not even come close. And he had the door open last year. Remember, right. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that was his backfield, and he couldn't do it. So I have him really low. Do I even have? Let me see where is he in my Devy? Okay, so I have him at 32 right now, but he's 5'11", 215, but he needs to show me something.
So he's closer to moving down than he is to moving up.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Now, outside of Ole Miss, outside of Bama, outside of LSU, who are the wide receivers that should be on our radar going into the season?
Well, I'm going to go into the school. It's Ohio State, dude. If you have not looked at Ohio State's, holy shoot. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, both of them might be first round. I almost guarantee one of them will be first round. Now, I'm on team Garrett Wilson. Most of the Devy community,
I gotta sign Garrett Wilson helmet back there. I'm on board too.
I mean, I like Olave. I have him at 4 and 5, so it's not like I don't like Olave. But I like Garrett Wilson better. That's just how watching my film and how my analysis, but it's very close. But here's the sick part about Ohio State. Then they have Emeka Egbuka, 6'1", 203, 5-star recruit right now. So not only do they have 2 first-round grades at wide receiver, they brought in a 5-star recruit, and then they have Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, that Marvin Harrison, his son was a 4-star recruit, walked on to the Ohio State Buckeye campus this year. So they are just insanely loaded at the wide receiver position. Now, I have 2 rock stars who I am in love with, and I know most of the world is. But I've been on these guys for over 2 years now. Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. Ladies and gentlemen, when you are 6'3", 225 in the SEC, and you are just imposing your physical will against defensive backs and opponents in the best conference in the NFL or in college football, dude, Treylon Burks screams first-round pick all over it. He's insanity. Dude, 6'3", 225. It was interesting, Coach. Did we have a lot of big receivers in this year's draft class?
No. Bateman was supposed to be, and he was a small, big receiver. He was like supposed to be the alpha, and he wasn't.
Yeah, that's why I like Nico Collins. He was the only true ex-big receiver. Right. So we already have Treylon Burks, 225. Dude, I'm sorry. You watch this man, he plays like a running back with the ball in the open field. He punishes people.
Love it.
David Bell plays bigger than his size, 6'2", 205, Purdue. Now, I actually like David Bell more than Rondell Moore as a prospect.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I do, because he can play the X and the Z. And to me, that's what I want in general. I want, because I have a theory, Coach. We might have said this. You can move from the X to the Z to the slot. You can move outside to inside. Very hard to move inside, outside in the NFL.
You think Elijah can do it?
That's going to be, he's the test case, right? Like
that's our guy.
That's our guy.
Yeah.
We love Elijah Moore. Now, I think he can play Z. Can he play? Now, you can move him around in the X. Could he be a full-time X receiver like A.J. Green? I don't think so. Could he be a full-time Z receiver? Yes.
I think in an offense with a quarterback who you're going to be running a lot of scramble drills.
Yes.
I think that helps him slot into the X too, because that's a guy who could take the top off the defense. Quarterback's rolling out of the pocket. Now you're breaking off your route. So I think in that sort of system where you could expect a lot of that, I think that also makes him fit into that role a little bit.
Oh, I love him with you. You know, I love him with the Jets. Yes, I mean, but he's not going to be, and he's not going to be your classic X.
No.
But can he? He has the potential. But in general, so I like David Bell because he can play the X at the college level, which tells me he can move to the Z or the slot much easier at the NFL level. My problem with Rondell Moore was he was predominantly a slot receiver all the time. So I love David Bell. Now, my other guy who I like Drake London, USC. 6'5", 210. Ladies and gentlemen, I've watched the film. He played the slot receiver for the Trojans. I get it. But he had Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyler Vaughn. This is the year we have to see, can Drake London move outside? And is he going to be able to gain better separation? So to me, Drake London has a wide range of outcomes. The physical traits are there. 6'5", 210, you can't coach size. Does he have the utmost separation at this point? No. But he's a basketball player and an NFL player. He played both as a freshman. Not much basketball. He's not a star. This year, he's devoted himself to football only. It's a very important year. Do I want to see more separation? Of course I do. But that's what we call growth. Do I see other physical traits, the ability to play out of the slot, get vertical? He can get vertical. He got vertical in that USC offense. Now, did he have a mismatch? Of course. When you have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyler Vaughn on the outside, Drake London had a mismatch at USC in the slot. But let's see him develop. I'm a big Drake London guy. Now, the other guy, the other guy who I like, but he's Marvin Mims of Oklahoma, is very interesting. The only problem is not enough Oklahoma guys transfer well. CeeDee Lamb might be the exception to the rule right now. So I got to see how Marvin Mims develops, but he's a very fascinating player also.
I like it. So London, with the breakdown of London, I usually love those big high point wide receivers. You know,
yes,
I love
me
them.
too.
But the NFL has me gun shy to fall in love with them now because those guys have been falling like in the draft. You know, I love Harmon. I loved Alan Lazard. You know, like those big guys that they can't really separate. The NFL has a hard time finding a spot for them right now. Like Lazard has kind of made it, but Harmon didn't. So that worries me a little bit.
No, I agree with you completely. Now, I'll say this. I have a higher grade on Drake London than I did on Lazard, but he's probably in the same bucket with Kelvin Harmon entering their last year. I'm assuming Drake London goes pro next year. Obviously, this year is going to be the deciding factor.
And a lot of things, like now, now that they can make money, I think that's going to change a lot.
That could, yes.
I think it needs to be factored in. Now they don't have that necessarily as a reason to leave. Now they are making money, so they could stay a little bit longer.
Hey, you know what? A guy like Drake London in Los Angeles maybe gets a $50,000 endorsement deal to play wide receiver for 1 year. Mm-hmm. So yes, and maybe he can get an insurance policy. I think so. I think, Coach, you said something very interesting. You can also get an insurance policy, right? Get a $5 million NFL career insurance policy.
Right.
So maybe you can help your mom if you need, or your dad. Maybe you get a $50,000, kind of marketing contract, and you get an insurance policy. So maybe you stay your 4th year. You're right about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. All right, I got my final question for you. Comes from Matt, our friend from Toilets to Titles Down Under Dynasty at FF_doormat. How do you approach Devy leagues? And in a startup, does the approach of picking up deeper guys instead of reaching for studs, is that a valuable theory for Devy?
It is a valuable theory. It is not how I do it. My theory is I want to draft in the Devy League players who are going to play NFL next year. Okay. I want, in a startup this year, I would draft Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller ahead of B.J. Robinson. I'll tell you why. There is too much injury risk at the running back position. The longer you play running back at the college level, the more likely you are to get hurt. We started this show off with Ricky Williams.
Yeah.
No one's going to get that many carries and stay for 4 years in college. We now know the statistics, and the scouts, they're going, and the agents are going to tell you at running back, you get off that campus as soon as you can. You only have X amount of carries.
You got about 4 years in the NFL to make your money.
You do. That's it. You got to make your money. So it's interesting, Coach. So I always go for this year. So at wide receiver, I've been drafting David Bell and Garrett Wilson ahead of Keyshawn Boutte. That's just how I do it. Now, there are people who always go for the shining object 2 or 3 years down the road.
Right.
To me, there's too much risk. Look at George Pickens. Yeah. Everyone last year, we all loved George Pickens.
Justin Ross.
Perfect. 2 top-ranked Devy wide receivers who have fallen because no fault of their own, not by performance, just pretty devastating injuries. I was going to talk about Justin Ross because I like him. I've been trying to study those reports. It looks positive that he's coming back. I like him in college fantasy football, and he's so cheap now in Devy. I'm willing to embrace the risk associated with Justin Ross. I'm no doctor, but I have been reading everything.
You are a scholar, though.
That's debatable, but that's another story. But what I do is the reports seem positive that he should return to the field this year. So I'm knocking on wood for this young man that he comes. I was a big Justin Ross guy, but look at, and there were huge George Pickens advocates. I can't take that much risk, Coach, to wait 3 years.
The reason why I would take the risk is I'm always trying to win now. And I have an example. A few years ago, I took over an orphan. I had Patrick Mahomes going into year 2, so he wasn't yet Patrick Mahomes. But I drafted Jerry Jeudy, I drafted Rondale Moore, I drafted Jonathan Taylor. And those guys were all about 2 years out. They weren't coming out the next year. I flipped them during the season to teams that were out, that were trying to buy the hype for a guy like Alvin Kamara. I got Christian McCaffrey. So, maybe it's not necessarily the best thing to draft them and hold on to them, but you could draft them and then sell the hype to get players to help you win now.
You're right about that. There's no question. You're right. I guess I'm just not as patient. Yeah. I want my guys to be in the NFL as soon as possible.
There's different strategies. It's different ways to look at it. And then you got to be adaptable, because you can have a plan, and then everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right?
You and I grew up in the 90s, the old Mike Tyson, right?
Yeah. That's it, man. Well, hey, we had a lot of excellent discussion on this episode. There's a lot of stuff to break down through. I do want to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by Primetime Sports Talk, your top source for all major sports content, including DFS, fantasy advice, and great gambling tips. Be sure to head to primetimesportstalk.com to check out their in-depth analysis, exclusive articles, fascinating interviews, and explore the rest of their amazing podcast family. Again, primetimesportstalk.com, your go-to spot for sports content. John, let everybody know where they can go to find out your sports content, all your Devy discussion, because, again, this was great stuff. I'm sure everybody's going to want more. Let them know where they can find it.
So first, make sure you follow me on Twitter, Gridiron Scholar 91. Right now, all of my written stuff is available on Fantrax for college fantasy football. So go to fantrax.com. I already have my quarterback profiles and projections out, running back profile and projections, my player rankings for college fantasy football. Wide receivers are coming out on Monday. I was just studying before I went on with Coach this morning. I was studying some college fantasy football wide receivers. I'm going to finish after the show today. So that's available on Monday. And then all of my Devy stuff, just go to my Twitter handle, scroll down, and all my Devy rankings and my Devy model are free. You just hit the button, and it brings you to a Google spreadsheet, and you can see all my rankings with all the players we talked about today.
Excellent, man. Excellent. And John is great on social media. You definitely want to follow him because all of his episodes come up on his timeline. He's very interactive. Any questions you have, tweet at him. He'll get back to you. He's a big help, man. John is like a source of knowledge that I use. There's a few guys that I really look to in the industry, and John is one of those guys. And when I'm getting ready for Devy drafts, John, we were talking about this episode, and then in the middle of me asking you questions about this episode, I'm throwing you names to see what So it's, yes, we're peers and we're working together on this, but also I'm looking to you for answers because we all need help at some point. So John is great like that. So I really do appreciate you, John. I appreciate you giving us some of your time. I know your summer is it's your off time. You're a teacher, so it's your time to be chilling out and enjoying yourself. But you blessed us with your presence today. So I appreciate that. Everybody, please make sure you follow the show on Twitter at Toilets Titles. Follow me on the Twitter at Coach Sheps. If you're watching YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Heck, go back, like a few episodes just to help us out. And if you want to get into the Frankenstank League, an easy way to do that, throw us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Take a screen capture of that review, DM it to us on the Twitter. Boom, you're in. That's it. That is all it takes. And we have about 16 spots to fill. John, I reached out to you about that. We could talk off air, see if you were interested, but there's definitely a bunch of spots available for Frankenstank, and we hope to play with you. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your 4th. Stay safe. Don't do anything reckless, and we will catch you all later on. Take care.